So, my name's Deb Naylor. I work for Inspira and I'm joined today by Adam Pearson. Adam, can you tell us a little bit about what you do for a career?
Yes, hi Deborah. Yes, my name's Adam Pearson and I run my own business called Adam Media Limited. I'm a director of that company. And what the company does is it's a video production company, basically. We offer clients, particularly around Cumbria and the Northwest, video production services. So that might be making corporate films, it might be making promo films, training films, all sorts of things. But we operate cameras and drones and editing, and together we bring all those services in one house and provide video production for our clients.
Sounds really exciting. What events led you to start your own business?
So when I was at school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, as many people have that same problem, and that's absolutely fine, really. That's the first thing I would say, that not everyone knows what they want to do. Great if you do know, because you can base yourself, base all your plans around that. But if you don't know, then you've got some more problems to overcome. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do originally, and I didn't feel like going down the standard route of university and spending a long time, a lot of money on something which I wasn't absolutely sure of doing. So I did a bit of on-the-job learning, really. I sort of got some cameras. I was always very interested in that type of industry, and I messed around myself for a while, did a bit of training. Online's a great place to learn. Worked for a company as well for a while, for about a year, to gain some skills in the filmmaking side of the business. And then eventually, or rather about 5 years ago from now, I decided that we would set up a company. It was me and my dad, Keith Pearson, that set it up together. We are still co-directors of the business, and yeah, so since then we obviously have, as I say, been around the country, Northwest especially, doing video for all sorts of clients, different sectors, particularly around the nuclear sector and the supply chain, but also around the sort of leisure tourism sector, with obviously the Lake District and all the supply chain that goes with that as well. So that's really my steps, really, from school to where I am now, really. So an unconventional journey, but one that's been quite rewarding.
And what would you say are the advantages and disadvantages of working for yourself?
Well, there are a lot, actually, and it's probably one of the most common things that I get asked, really, about this. We'll start with the cons first, then we can finish on the high of the pros. And they are somewhat interlinked, as you might imagine. But the cons, or sort of the disadvantages, I guess, would be the fact that everything is down to you. You have to be really sure when you get into business that you are happy to tackle quite a range of problems. So it won't just be doing your one job role. You've got to take on a huge variety of things. So there's no accounts department, really. There's no technical support. If things go wrong, it's down to you to find a solution to that. So yeah, everything being down to you and on your shoulders is the first one I'd probably mention. The second, sort of linked to that, is the fact that it can be very absorbing when you're your own boss, because whether or not you want to or not, you can get very, very consumed into a project. You can find yourself spending long evenings, weekends, right into burning the midnight oil, trying to finish off projects. As I say, partly because you have to, but partly because you want it to succeed yourself, because it's your reputation. So it can become very absorbing, and you can't always just switch off at 5 o'clock like you might if you had a regular salaried job. And I suppose lastly on that aspect, the one I thought of was the fact that you don't have any paid holidays or sick leave. So if you go on a holiday, if you manage to find time in your diary, you can do, but there is no holiday pay for that. And if you fell ill or broke your leg and you're out of action for 6 weeks, there's no support like there would be perhaps if you were in a larger corporate. So that's sort of my top three disadvantages. But looking more on the positives, the pros would be the fact that when things go well, you have that increased sense of pride and achievement, because it's your name on the company. It's you that's leading it. You're the one that will ultimately take the most credit at the end of something going well. That said, if it goes badly, you'll also take the negative credit for it. But generally, things will generally go well, and you'll feel a sense of, as I say, pride and accomplishment after you've done that. And I suppose linked to that as well is the flexibility to choose when you work. So although I've said that it takes a lot of your time, depending on how busy weeks are, you can obviously set yourself different times to work and, as I say, be more in control of when you do things. And it's you motivating yourself as opposed to someone else saying you have to be here at a certain time. So that's that. And I suppose just the overall sense really is the master of your own destiny. Really, the fact that it's down to you as to where you'll end up. If you want to go in that direction, you can steer the ship that way. If you want to go in that direction, you can steer it that way. It's not the company that's leading you, it's you leading the company, really.
Smashing. And what advice do you need, or do you think people who want to become self-employed need?
Yeah, so in terms of, this is like the support, isn't it? And it's the advice and the support, really. Yeah. So I was very lucky in the fact that I had my dad working with me, as I say, as a co-director, and he also had experience in business and in the world of industry. So that was a helping start for me. So above all else, you need to have, ideally, you need family and friends behind you while starting this, because if you're doing it alone, it's going to be a very lonely journey. So family and friends will be key for that. But on a more professional service basis, yes, no one can do everything, nor should someone do everything, because people have certain skill sets that are akin to certain tasks. So businesses work the best generally, I find, when the tasks are delegated in the most efficient manner. So you will want to bring in some admin support perhaps, or some accountants advice, obviously on a sort of taxation point of view and on the kind of bookkeeping point of view. Business advisors can be really, really useful, because when you're so focused on doing what you do and your service or your product, you can't always look above the parapet, and sort of you don't see the big picture, whereas other people can sort of give you that rounded view of other options, and make sure you consider things. So as I say, family, friends, great, but obviously some professional support is needed. So you can't just go it alone, really.
Thank you. And when things have gone wrong, how have you been able to put them right?
So they haven't gone wrong too often, I'm pleased to admit. But when they have, I suppose the key thing is honesty, really, that people make mistakes. We've had some small things go wrong on jobs before, fairly minor things, but if you speak to the client about it, you talk to them about it, and try and rectify it by redoing it for them, or offering them some sort of discount or something. That's generally the key thing, really. And the important thing in that is coming away with the relationship intact, because I've been asked about this in the past, about what's the sort of what are the kind of top factors for a business working, and I always say the number one, even above the quality of the product or the service, the number one is the relationships you have with people, because that's where your repeat business will come, that's where your reputation will come from, and ultimately you have to have strong connections and a strong network to succeed, really. So as I say, honesty, fix the problems, and people will generally be on your side.
And the last question from me, Adam, is what advice would you give to a young person who wants to set up their own business, and is there a good age to do it?
Yeah, so I suppose the first thing I'd say about that is, obviously, it's amazing if people want to set up their own businesses. It's great to see the ambition of people, particularly if they're young people, deciding that they want to go on a different career route and not perhaps go down the apprenticeship or university route. So sort of well done for that initially. Secondly to that, and it is a bit of a secondary, but it's very much harder than you think. So you don't realise when you get into business that, as well as producing the product or the service that you do, which you might be very passionate about, there's so many other things that go with that. So as I mentioned before, lots of administration to do, lots of accounts to do, lots of technical things to resolve. So there's a whole gamut of things to do beyond just the product and service you actually offer. Other things to consider when setting up a business would be there's different business entities you can have. So you can be, say, a sole trader or a limited company. Both have different implications. Again, that's something to speak to business advisors about, really, about which one should you be. So very, very different types of entity. So be careful about what you choose. I suppose another thing would be having friends in the camp. So as previously mentioned, those strong business networks have helped us so much over the last, say, 5 years. And we're members of the BEC, for example, the strong business network, and that's been invaluable for both for leads and sort of generating us direct finance, but also for the kind of more softer support and the friends in the camp, as I say, that you can talk to, chat things through with, and just be your friends really. And on a more practical basis, before you do start a business, very important as well to understand the market that you're going to get into. So you've got things to do, obviously, market research in terms of what other companies are out there. What's your USP going to be? How are you going to be different in the market to stand out? Because apart from some very unique products and services, most things already exist. You're then joining a market that's already established. It's how do you stand out, as I say, and how are you going to get that business and it not be Joe Blogs down the road. And as well, of course, pricing models. You've got to look at where you pitch yourself in the market. Are you sort of that sort of quality versus value, because some markets won't stand either or, etc. Which something just to consider. And I suppose the last thing on the what I would do when thinking about the business is sort of how do you want to convey your business image? Does it want to be very formal and regimented, or does it want to be a bit more informal and playful? So there's a certain way of communicating the business, and that's important from the outset as well. Making sure that you start on the right foot, and people start to associate you with something. So a lot to consider there, but yes. And in terms of the age to start a business, I would say there is no one age to start a business. Obviously, I was 19 when the limited company was formed. Actually, oddly enough, exactly 5 years ago today. We're celebrating our five-year birthday today.
Congratulations.
So yeah, I was 19 when that happened. But as I say, that's partly to do with circumstance at the time. So for me, my answer to the age question is there's no right age. It's about doing it at the right time. I've often said to people that having a business or deciding to start a business is like deciding to have a child. With it, it's very exciting and there's lots of possibilities, but with it, there's a lot of responsibility, and it's going to take up a lot of your time. Right off a few years of sort of any chance of being freeful, so free thinking. It's going to absorb a lot of your time. So think carefully about when to start that journey. And obviously, you'll want to give it your all. So make sure that when you do, you have that time available. If you're trying to cram running in the business with doing something else, one or both is going to suffer. So make sure you give it the adequate time it deserves, and then hopefully it will prosper.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Adam. That's really, really interesting and informative.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Yes, well, I would say that, Deborah, I'd say that if anyone does want to start their own business, obviously look into all those things, get some support and advice on that, obviously. But obviously, best of luck if people want to do it. And I'm happy to speak to people on LinkedIn if they have any queries and things, so they can message on LinkedIn. I'll see what I can do to get back to them.
Great. That's a great offer. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Thanks.